All right. Welcome back. Episode 3 of the Chris Schleyline Experience. I'm your host, Chris Schleyline. My co-host to the right, Brand Neckel. And we are privileged to welcome on a very special guest. He's a former 18-year professional baseball player. This man played for 3 teams in the state of Wisconsin, but he's homegrown talent by way of Sarasota, Florida, where he jumped ship like Jack Sparrow and headed north on the Mississippi and took it all the way to the great state of Wisconsin. He's celebrating his recent wedding anniversary, but let's hope he won't be sleeping on his couch tonight. Please welcome on a media mogul and professional dad. You may know him online as Tim Dillard, but today we're going to call him Tim. Please welcome on Tim Dillard. Tim, thanks for taking the time this morning.
That was pretty good. By way of Sarasota and jumped on a riverboat, I guess, and went upstream to Mississippi. Yeah, all the way. You said 3 teams in Milwaukee. That threw me for a loop. But yeah, Beloit, the Milkmen in Franklin, and of course the Milwaukee Brewers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, Tim. And I think to start off, we should probably clear the air on sleeping on the couch. Can you talk about when you started as a broadcaster and that kind of journey you initially had, in Nashville, and then coming up to Milwaukee when you had some interesting experiences?
Yeah, so I played professionally for 18 seasons, and I was about to go back to spring training with the Rangers, and I got a call from the Brewers broadcasting department, and they said, "Hey, we're thinking about making a move. If you're willing to retire, we'll put you on the pre and post game show." And so my wife said yes, really quick, like, sure. Cause I'm, she's been sticking with me through this whole up and down life of professional baseball. And anyway, that was the next step. Maybe was broadcasting, and it's hard to get your foot in the door. And that's what they said. They said, we'll get your foot in the door this way. And so, yeah, retired. And after the pandemic thing of 2020, my job was canceled in the minor leagues. And so 2021 comes up and they're like, all right, you're going to do broadcasting, but you only get paid for games that you work. So I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do? Like, what if this doesn't work out, or if they don't have enough games for me, or if I get fired? I was like, well, what do? I didn't want to get an apartment in Milwaukee, and I didn't want to spend a bunch of time, living in a hotel and paying a bunch of money. So I thought, well, I'll just reach out over social media and see if anybody has like an open room or a couch or something like that. And sure enough, I was flooded with people across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter of like, hey, we got a couch you can sleep on. And so that's what it was. I slept on about 15 or 16 different couches, filmed a little video series on the people that would let me do it. So I did about 6 videos, I think, filming me on people's couches. But that's exactly what it was. It was all over. I would say the Milwaukee area. Stayed in Oak Creek, Muskego, West Bend. Everywhere, Wauwatosa, Kenosha. Anyway, it was like one couch after. I just started lining them up, and on days I wouldn't work, sometimes I would fly home for 3 or 4 days, and I would come back and I would drive to somebody's house and sleep on their couch. And it was really interesting. You get to meet a lot of people that way. And I think that was, besides saving a bunch of money, just in case, it was about getting to know people, getting to know the fans, and try to see kind of what the fans want to hear and get out of a Brewers broadcast.
Wow. And so did you ever have any like, weird interactions or interesting interactions, staying on these people's couches, or was everything pretty good?
It was kind of like twofold. It was like I knock on a door and the people open the door and they can't really believe that I messaged them on Twitter and would actually show up. And my wife cannot believe I didn't get murdered. She was just like, I'm very trusting in that way. So she's like, you're going to get duped. But the other people on the other side of the door kind of thought the same thing. They were like, okay, well, if you're not going to kill me, I'm not going to kill you. So it was like, all right, this understanding. There was a few times, there was one place I stayed at where I woke up at like 2 a.m. and there was this wolf, dire wolf is what I would say. It's called a dog, but it was like a giant white. There was 2 of them. This dog looked like a human in a suit. That's how big it was. And the sucker's just licking my beard nonstop at 2 a.m. I'm just like, I don't know how long I can stay here. So I abandoned ship a couple days later. One place had some sort of animal. I can't remember. It's what's the little varmints? Maybe a guinea pig. I think it was a guinea pig.
Guinea pig or hamster.
Guinea pigs. Yeah, there was a place that had guinea pigs, and I hadn't really spent a lot of time with guinea pigs, so I had a chance to. And they're really nice creatures. So, yeah, there was little adventures here and there, and I would have kept doing it, but my wife was like, "You need to stop. It looks not professional. I need to clean it up." And plus, my back was starting to hurt. But here's what I got out of it is how many just amazingly generous people. It kind of just sums up the state of Wisconsin, like just generous people that just are down for a good time of just something off the wall, kind of weird, and it worked out great.
So, what did the guys in the booth at the time? Did they know that you were on the couches as well, or did that ever come up?
Yeah, like all the time. Like that was like a punchline all season for 2021 and part of 2022. Brian Anderson is on the call, and he's like, there's Tim Dillard down the right field line at the broadcast booth down there, the desk. And he's like, "You sleeping on any couches?" I'm like, "Man, I found a place, dude." But anyway, yeah, it kind of became, I don't know, I see the people at the field a lot of times when I'm there. So it's really cool. And I can ask about, their guinea pigs and such.
You can ask about their guinea pigs and their pack of wolves they have.
Yeah. I'm telling you, those dogs were huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine your face as you wake up in the middle of the night and you see two big wolves licking on your face right before Brewers play the Reds on a Sunday morning. It was probably quite the wake up.
Well, if I had a big enough car, I'd probably just sleep in my car. I don't really care. I played in the minor leagues for so long. I mean, you have to, and anybody that knows this, anybody that's gone through the minor leagues will know that you have to be adaptable. You may get done with the game at 1 a.m. and then you have a 4 a.m. flight or bus to the airport. What do? You got to sleep in the clubhouse if you can get any sleep at all. So it's just, I always said, if you've played minor league baseball long enough to sleep in your car, you're doing something.
Well, and that's a fair point. I think Daniel Norris might agree with that as well.
Is that the dude that has the van?
That's van life.
The van life, yeah. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I didn't have a van. I got a 2-wheel drive sleigh over there in the driveway, Mercury Mariner. 2000. It's a 2006, but I got it in 2005. It's got 220,000 miles right now. Still kicking.
Yeah, she is still kicking. Absolutely. And you had mentioned that you have had to sleep in your car at points. Was there a story? Was it spring training, or was there a time when you had to sleep in your car for like almost a week straight before the season?
A week straight? No. Let's see. I'm trying to think. There was a few times where you just kind of had to make it work. I'm trying to think. There was one time in Double A. I was the oldest guy in Double A in 2014. And for whatever reason, it was the place I was staying I couldn't get back to, or the hotel I didn't pay for another room, and the game got over late. And so I was like, the clubhouse, couldn't sleep in the clubhouse, or something happened. I remember sleeping in my car there a couple nights. Not that I couldn't just drive home, but it was like, for whatever, the flip around, the time frame just didn't make any sense. So anyway, like there's just circumstances that you just don't think you're going to come in contact with, that you just have to go, this is part of it. And you either have to like it or you don't. And if you enjoy playing professional baseball and are willing to go through some of the weird stuff, then it's a very satisfying existence. And the people that you meet is probably the greatest part about it.
Absolutely. I think you were fortunate to meet a lot of people, whether it's in Lancaster, or
Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Lancaster.
Yeah. They're sticklers about that. So if you ever find yourself in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, you better be careful.
I was telling Brandon before this, I was trying to perfect the pronunciation of it, because I know how finicky they are over in.
I didn't know. So it's independent ball. Yeah, 2013. I got fired in Mexico, and I'm still looking for a job. And I ended up out there to try out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And anyway, I ended up making the team. I had like a week-long tryout. Slept in my car a couple times then too. And anyway, made the team, and we were doing like a meet the team night. And somebody said, what's your favorite part about being here or something like that. And I was like, oh, I know, this is my first time in Lancaster. And the whole room erupts. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I was like, what happened? I was like, and they're like, it's Lancaster. I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, I wasn't being rude trying to correct you. They corrected me, so I'm just passing on.
No, absolutely. I love it. And I wanted to ask you too. I know, we're big fans of the Axeman here on the program. And I think, did he have a special, or how did he come to give you the nickname that you have today?
Yeah. John Axford he's the man. Great teammate. Awesome. I don't even know when, I think he gave it to me in AAA. But he would just call people that. We had Cameron Lowe too that season, and he would just say Lamron Co. He'd be like Lamron Co. And it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of stuck. When I went to go get Twitter for the first time, because I've been banned, I guess, once. So, but anyway, there was 25 Tim Dillards. So I was like, well, what do I do? And I thought Dim Tillard, and it kind of stuck to the point where sometimes my mom calls me Dim. But it just kind of rolls off the tongue good. And so anyway, yeah, Axford just kind of, I don't know where he got it from, but he just kind of, that's how he talked. If someone's initials, their first letters line up where it can kind of do that, he runs with it. But he was awesome. I was there. We were roommates in Iowa in 2010, I think, when he got called up. Yeah, he's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, the Axeman's an absolute legend.
Oh yeah, I have a shirt in my garage. It's like a sleeveless. Maybe I kept the sleeves on, but it has his image. It's like a Nike player shirt that they used to wear. Anyway, I can't figure out a moment when it'd be cool to wear it. I guess the moment is past as far as being a player and with the Brewers, but I don't know. I haven't, and it's awesome. I don't know what to do with it, but I am not throwing it away.
I think I could always frame it next to your jersey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Look at that. Is this a video podcast too, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So that's Nashville Sounds. They retired my number a couple years ago, which a lot of people are like, well, you don't want your number retired in the minor leagues, but I don't care.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. I was like, they really thought that I was good enough to have my number retired and put on the wall, and then they gave me one. I was like, I'll put it on my wall.
Yeah.
Crown jewel.
Brandon, was there did they have a ceremony for you on the field in the whole shebang for that?
Whole shebang, yeah. They actually reached out to the Brewers and they said, we need Tim to not be working whatever day it was, July something, 2 years ago. And I think that the Brewers were playing the Red Sox, I think at Fenway. So they just didn't put me on the pregame show. And so anyway, I came home and I knew there was going to be some sort of something. They wanted me there to have a bobblehead, I think was how they lured me in. But then they revealed that they were going to retire my number. So it was kind of cool. Got to throw out the first pitch to my oldest son. He didn't catch it because I threw a really bad throw. But I mean, I'm not trying to impress scouts anymore.
Right.
But it was such a great thing. For minor league baseball in general, the Nashville Sounds do it better than almost anybody. And of course I'm biased, but they put on an absolutely great show. They had to put up with an old stadium for so long and try to put on a good show. So once they got a new stadium and resources, it's one of the hottest tickets in town. They are sold out. They have a bit, bigger attendance than anyone else in the minor leagues, and they win all these awards. And I know everybody there that works there and how hard they work. It is really cool. And for me to be a part of one of those nights, and now I got a plaque on the wall. You can see this beard anytime you walk in. It's pretty good.
So is that your favorite stop? I mean, obviously it seems like it, but throughout the minors, definitely a place I've been wanting to check out. Obviously Nashville, even just as a city, has really been on the rise. So I'm sure that's going to continue to even elevate them. But was that your favorite stop throughout the minors?
I think so. I mean, I'm biased because I live here, but I wouldn't have lived here if I hadn't been in AAA with the Brewers, and that was their AAA spot at the time. And we had never lived here. My wife and I had never been here. We didn't know anybody, had no family, no friends. But after the 07 season was over, we were like, let's just stay here. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it went. We got a small little apartment in a really not great area. And we made it work and built our lives here. Our 3 kids were born here. And I mean, it's just, you don't really know. And you hear these stories a lot. And I got a lot of friends across baseball, and sometimes they scroll into a city and they meet their wife or whatever, and that's where they end up living. Or they, move somewhere and they think they're going to go back home, but then all of a sudden their wife likes the place, so they stay. I mean, it's pretty common to have that happen. There's actually some here in Nashville that I know. So I don't know. You don't really know where the life's going to take you because you have almost zero control of where you play. It's all up to the brass, and the farm directors of your club, that wherever they put you. And you don't even know. You go into spring training and you look at the board one of the last days and you're like, oh, I'm going to AA, or oh, I'm going to AAA. Like, you don't know. So it's like, hey, you going to get an apartment? It's like, where? What state? I have no idea where I'm going to go. So that kind of thinking and being able to adapt on the fly is the signature of minor league baseball.
Yeah. Well, while we're kind of talking about that, and obviously in the Brewers organization, I wanted to ask, you're drafted, I believe out of high school, 15th round by the Brewers, decided to go to college, and then got drafted again. What was kind of that, was that a tough decision to decide to go to school, instead of pursuing the majors right away? And what was kind of the relationship you built with the Brewers in a way, considering, not many guys get drafted twice, especially by the same team?
Yeah, I'm going to hopefully not make this long-winded. You really did your homework, because I forget about some of this stuff. I'm not sure where to start. Number one, I didn't think this podcast was just about me. I thought you were going to ask me about the Brewers this year. So yeah, I was drafted at a high school my senior year in 2001 as a catcher. The Brewers saw me as a catcher. I was a two-way player, pitcher, catcher, and I could hit and I could catch really well. I could block, throw people out, called my own games, did all that jazz. And anyway, one of the games in high school, right before playoffs, I actually hurt my shoulder, my left shoulder, my non-throwing shoulder. And anyway, it subluxed and it kind of slid out of place and came back. And what I didn't know is how badly I had injured it. The labrum ended up tearing my labrum in that shoulder. And so it was no stability at all, being able to swing. Similar to what Cody Bellinger, I think, went through. Remember the World Series where he did that high pump with his right arm? Well, I think that subluxed his shoulder, and so that's why it took him a long time. You can tell he's healthy. Last year he was crushing. But anyway, so I basically was going to sign and go with the Brewers, but I wasn't going to be able to play. Like I didn't want to sign hurt, and be that guy. And I don't know. It seemed to make sense to let me rehab this thing and go to junior college, because junior college, you can go and leave anytime. It's not like going to a 4-year college where you have to stay for 3 years. And I was actually going to go to Ole Miss. My dad went to Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi, and was on a team that went to the College World Series. And so they were kind of recruiting me, but I was like, I don't want to go there because they kept saying the red shirt word. I'm like, I want to play, bro. And I wanted to be Ohtani before Ohtani was Ohtani. So anyway, basically rehabbed my entire freshman year of college and tried to get back. And the Brewers thought, hey, we're still going to draft you. So they drafted me in the 34th round as a catcher again. And they were like, we want you to get healthy. And so I did. My second year, we ended up going to the junior college World Series. I pitched really well. I caught really well. I hit really well. So it was kind of like a free-for-all. There were several scouts there. Didn't know if I was going to be a pitcher or catcher, but I thought I showed enough progress as, coming back from injury. And anyway, the Brewers came to me as soon as we lost in the junior college World Series, came home. This is back when you had landline phones. Had to find a pay phone, called the Brewers, what number they gave me. And so the next day, a guy shows up at my house, Doug Reynolds. He's still with the Brewers in the scouting department. He's really high up there now. And we sat there for like 6 hours trying to negotiate, like, what are you going to do? I was like, well, I can always go to Ole Miss, because I ended up signing with Ole Miss, even though I didn't want to go. But I was about to go back into the draft, and they had the draft and follow. So I had a lot of things going for me. I can either go back into the draft where I did really well and other teams saw me, or I can go to Ole Miss, or you guys can sign me. And so they said, we want to sign you. We want to sign you as a pitcher. I was like, what? Could not believe it. I thought pitching I always did on the background. Didn't really care. Catching was my thing. Mm-hmm. And I still think I could go catch. Honestly, if I had an invite somewhere to spring training, I could go catch. Really? Hitting would be questionable. But anyway, I was like, okay, well, why is that? And they like, well, we think you're big and strong. You have a great arm, and we think you'll have a long career as a pitcher. And well, I ended up playing 18 seasons. So yeah. I guess they were right, but man, I wanted to catch so badly. And I actually ended up being a bullpen catcher a few times throughout my career, just out of need. Right. And anyway, Not a lot of people get to stick with a team as long as I did. I was with the Brewers nonstop for 10 years, and then I went off and came back and went off and came back and did that for a lot of years. And then, so you add broadcasting into the mix, which I just signed back with the Brewers broadcasting. So it's what, 2024 now? So
Yeah,
my relationship goes back 23 years or so. So yeah, me and the Brewers, we know each other.
That's awesome. No, it's good insight. And just one other thing with that was that kind of a tough, I don't want to say a wake up call, but like, with the Brewers coming to you and saying, we want to sign you as a pitcher, was that kind of like a tough idea for you at first? Or is it something like, hey, if I want to play it, I'm willing to do whatever?
Well, I mean, you can't really control what they want you to do, right? Like
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I'm going to go be a big league starter. And they're like, well, we'll put you in the bullpen. It's like, oh, well, so you have these ideas of what you want to do. But for me, it was about getting my foot in the door. And honestly, my first 2 or 3 years, I thought, if this whole pitching thing doesn't work out, I feel like I got a ace up my sleeve to be like, hey, just let me get in the batting cage. Let me catch some bullpens, and you're always looking for catchers. I was like, surely I can always go back and do it. After about season 4 or 5, I thought, nah, I can't do that anymore. At least not in a, real pursuit kind of way. But pitching, I was very raw. The only reason I started pitching my junior year of high school, I caught all of our pitchers, and my coach asked, hey, how are we going to be this year? And I thought, we're going to lose a lot. Like we'd lost all our pitching. And I was like, I just wanted to win. My dad played baseball. He coached baseball, and he taught me and my brothers to just be competitors. Like you just don't want to lose. Do whatever you can to make sure you can win. And so my first thought was, I have to pitch. I'm not very good at pitching. Don't really know much about it other than what I catch. I know what I don't like from pitchers, but I know what I do like from pitchers. So I want to be that guy. I want to be right-handed Randy Johnson, where I just broke everyone's fingers, I feel like. So that's what I tried to do. And it was a little bit of an adjustment because at catching, you kind of short arm it down to second base. But for pitching, I wanted to be like almost sidearm is what I wanted to be. Yeah. And so I ended up kind of going kind of a 3/4 just to kind of, toe the line of both sides. And so I just would throw heavy fastballs, heavy sinkers as much as I could, try to jam everybody. I was like, I'm going to pitch everyone inside because I hate trying to hit when someone's throwing hard inside. So that's what I did. And I ended up having success. But I always thought it was always a back burner thing for pitching. So kids out there, like, play every position. I get asked a lot of the kids doing sports and stuff. I'm like, just learn every position. Just learn. Even if you want to be a pitcher at 8 years old for whatever reason, know what the first baseman's doing on a ground ball. Know what the left fielder's doing on a ball in the gap. Like, learn every position because you don't know what's going to come up. And luckily, I learned enough about pitching so that when the Brewers were like, hey, we want you to pitch, I wasn't just, out there alone. I had all this background in so many different places that I knew where a second baseman's going to be, or a shortstop's going to be on a ground ball back to me on a lefty or righty, and it helped me throughout my career. Not because I was an exceptional pitcher, but because I learned the craft of everyone else's position.
Yeah. No, having that background knowledge, I'm sure really, helped. And obviously that's why you had such a good career. I want to ask also about somebody that was with the Brewers for a while, Ed Cedar. How was that relationship with him? Maybe what it is now. And, I believe you played for him as a coach, when he was coaching you, I should say.
I think it was Helena, maybe.
Helena, yeah. We go back even further than that. I've known Ed for, how old am I? About 35 years.
Wow. Yeah.
I still see him 2 or 3 times a year. Love this guy. He's amazing. Anybody that's had him as a coach or a friend can vouch for this. He's a pretty special guy. He was a player coach for my dad in the White Sox organization in 1988. So y'all, how old were y'all in 1988? And
12.
Yeah. And it was South Bend, Indiana. And I think I was five years old. And yeah, Eddie was, he would coach, but he'd also, play the outfield if they needed him to. And he has a very distinctive voice. And so you fast forward, I don't know how many years after that, to 2003, he was my coach. And he was already in Helena, Montana, in the short season baseball, managing that club when I signed. So I got called up from the Arizona League to high rookie ball in Helena. And my dad, remember phone cards? Probably don't remember phone cards. So I used a phone card to call my dad. I'm like, hey, I'm getting called up to high rookie. And he goes, oh, I think Ed Cedar's the the manager up there. And I'm like, Ed Cedar. I was like, that sounds familiar. I had his baseball card, right, from 1988 South Bend White Sox. But he goes, oh, you'll remember him. He's like, as soon as you hear his voice, you'll remember him. So I walk into the clubhouse there, which is like a mobile home that's just set over to the side. And I hear this, hey, Timmy, like the most distinct voice ever. And all these memories coming back. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ed Cedar. And so, yeah, he's just an amazing human. You can't say enough good things. He cares about his players. I see him every year at fantasy camp for the Brewers, where we're all coaches. Mm-hmm. And to see people like Ricky Weeks and Corey Hart and JJ Hardy, like they will push everyone out of the way to hug this man because he is that special. And anytime you come across a coach or an advisor or a teacher, someone in authority that cares that much about, the student, the player, it gets involved in your life, it corrects you at the right time and knows how that flows. It's rare and it's special.
Wow. I mean, we all know Ed Cedar as an absolute legend, so it's great it's great to hear this validation for Ed. I mean, I just remember like specifically like when he was the third base coach and him and Ryan Braun would always get the
jump high five.
Yeah, electric.
Yeah. So it turns out he had such a great arm. My dad would always talk about how such a good arm he has, and he's got some huge shoulders. Right, it looks like he's smuggling, like some football pads underneath his jersey. He had a cannon. So if you go to Quad City, Iowa, I don't know what their team name's called. I think it's still the River Bandits. There's a bridge right there that has like a couple, I don't know what you call it, arches in it. And legend has it, he threw a ball that went over part of the arch, which is like 500 feet away or something like that. So that's the legend. And since then, they've actually redone the field because it flooded in 1994. And I think again in 2000 something, they moved the field over like 14 feet. So in 2004, when I came through there, we were trying to see how far we could throw a ball to see if we could get over that arch. And the guy that we had that had like the best arm couldn't quite get it there. So the legend has it that Ed Cedar had one of the best arms in baseball.
Wow. That's something you don't hear. That's something you don't hear about, which I'm absolutely happy.
I've just been around too long in too many ways.
Well, it's a crazy full circle moment too. I mean, like having Ed coach with your dad and then coach you. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah. And people, especially when I got in early, a lot of these guys had, coached either like with my dad or against my dad, or maybe coached my dad. So that was kind of cool because you always, and I love my dad, obviously I'm biased, but he has such a great name in the game of baseball. And everywhere I went, there's random people I didn't know that would just come up and be like, your dad is amazing. Love your dad. And that really struck with me because as my years went on, you start to think, okay, well, what does it really matter in this game, right? Like you want to have a good name in the game. You may be the best player out there, but if you're a turd, nobody really cares. You'll get paid, sure, but at the end of the day, who wants to be around you? And anyway, so that really struck a chord with me of just how many people would shower praise on him. And I don't know. It's almost like I didn't want to do anything wrong that would hurt the Dillard name in that way. So anyway, I wanted to play the game right. I wanted to play the game hard, and I wanted to be a good teammate and be coachable. And at the same time, as I got older, I wanted to help others. So I kind of tried to follow along in his footsteps a little bit, except for the broadcasting. He never won a broadcast.
Well, I think he did tap into his willingness to play and always his willingness to coach as well. I think that's, really, really important when it comes to players these days. I feel like it's not necessarily as common, because I mean, I think, what was it, 2018, 2017, he led the entire minors in innings pitched, right?
2019, yeah.
19, yeah.
I was one of the oldest guys in AAA that year, and I started out the season. I was with the Rangers organization. We were in Nashville. Thank God. That was awesome, by the way. Playing where you live is pretty rare. So I would drive like 20 minutes down the road to the stadium. And anyway, I started the season on the Phantom IL. I wasn't hurt or anything, but we had too many people. I was a just-in-case guy. And then suddenly, with all the moves going up and down, and they're like, we need someone to start. We were in Iowa playing the Cubs, and I had pitched a couple innings, and I actually didn't do that great at all. And I was sitting at the hotel there, and I was kind of bummed. I'm like, man, I'm probably going to get released. They're like, we don't need this guy. And I got a call from Brian Schaus, who was our pitching coach, former Brewer, former
Legend.
teammate.
Yeah, good player.
Yeah, he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's midnight. Of course, I'm watching Netflix. What else?" No. I was like, "I don't know. I'm unwinding. What's going on?" He goes, "Can you start tomorrow?" And anytime a coach asks, "Hey, can you have to be willing to take the ball." If no one says anything else about me in my entire career that like I would even care anyway, but I would want them to say this dude just wanted the ball and he just wanted to be on the mound. Like never shied away from I don't know, man. I'm a little sore. I'm a little tender. I don't know if I want. He was like, "Hey, can you start tomorrow?" I was like, "Yep, I can." And my roommate was my center fielder, Zach Granite. Countertops over there, like, "Are you serious, dude? You're starting tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to get some rest." So we're laughing about it. Anyway, wake up next day, felt okay. Tried to do everything the exact same because I've been in the bullpen. And anyway, ended up throwing like 5 innings. Wow. And so 2 days later after that, they were like, "Hey, you think you can throw out of the bullpen?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I would throw an inning out of the bullpen. And then 2 days later, I would start again. And that's kind of what happened from a lot of the season was I would start a game and a couple days later throw out of the bullpen, and ended up I threw more innings in the minor leagues than anyone at any level for any team. And I don't know, it was only like 150 something innings, which I don't feel like is a lot, but nowadays that's like, whoa, you threw 150 something innings.
Crazy.
Yeah. So to be one of the oldest guys in the league, and I thought, man, here we go. I'm going to have a good season next year. And then it was 2020.
So on the Phantom DL as well, like, kind of like, because we had talked to Vinny about like, you have to be able to, like, when he was pinch hitting, you don't know when you're going to be called into play. You just have to be ready. Oh, yeah. I mean, the Phantom DL, as far as pitching, has got to be similar. I mean, I can imagine you might not pitch for a month and then you're pitching 3 games, in like a week span or something. What was that like? And kind of how did you keep yourself ready during that time?
Sure. I mean, that's a real thing. I know they're having like some issues with it in the big leagues. I think, guys that don't want to go on the IL are getting put on the IL to make moves. And that's been around baseball forever. That's not a big deal. And honestly, nobody really cares. And the minor leagues, though, you have no say-so whatsoever. They're like, "Hey, you're on the IL." And I'm like, "What is it this time? Turf toe?" Like, don't give me anything weird. I don't want another team to see my chart and be like, "What'd this guy have?" What disease is this? Like, no, I'm fine. I'm healthy. They used to have to put something down. I don't think they even do it anymore, but yeah, it's part of the game. Unless you're the best player. So unless you're that top, 1%, 5% in baseball, you have to go through this kind of stuff. And you can say, "Well, I'm not supposed to be on there." I was on the IL with a lot of guys that should not have been on there. Brent Suter and I were on the Phantom together one year. I don't know what year it was, 16, maybe 2016. And I'm like, I was more upset for him than I was in my career. Because I'm like, this guy doesn't deserve it. Like, I get one. I deserve it. Maybe I'm not as good. And what's Brent Suter done since? He's only been in the big leagues. I'm like, how in the world? Who is in charge? I was so mad. I may have called some people and like, this guy does not need to be on there. I don't know if it helped or not, but they eventually took him off, and then the guy gets called to big leagues soon after. I'm like, why? And there's so many little moves that we don't know that are going on. And it's like, you have to have this guy here at this point and this guy here. And then there's a certain time frame for this. And, there's a lot of hoops they have to jump through, and we don't really know about it, but we think there's this overall GM that knows everything that's going on. Like there's some higher power master plan in the game of baseball. And there really isn't. It's just, what are they going to do to get through today? And then the short outlook. But it's a tough gig, and you have to stay ready, and you can sit there and sulk. I've had teammates that would sulk. They would be like, "Oh, I'm on the Phantom. I'm on the inactive list. Woe is me." And it's like, if you go that route, you will not be ready when your name's called. And the thing about, different inactive list or restricted list or whatever some of these lists are, you could start the day. And this actually happened to me in Colorado Springs. Walked in, Rick Sweet, our manager. I walked in. I'm like, "Hey, am I active today?" Because I'm there like about the time the coaches get there, or sometimes before. Anyway, I'd come in and I'd be like, "Hey, man, am I active today?" And he's like, "Nope, sorry, Dilly." And I'm like, "Well," but nothing changes for me. I go and I do my work. I power shag during batting practice, make sure I get my thrown program in, If I need to throw something off the bump, throw to the catcher, off the bump, kind of just feel good. Don't do anything extreme. I'm not going to, get some beach muscles just in case. And anyway, there was a couple times where right before the game starts, he comes over to my locker and was like, Dilly, you're active. What? Yeah, you're in there. And one time I came in and asked if I was active, and he said no. And then I don't know how many hours later, he was like, Dilly, we need you to start this game.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. And it always felt good knowing that I could be that guy. Because I would have teammates that are like, dude, this is crazy. I've never heard of something like this before. And I'm like, well, I want to be the Swiss Army knife. I don't care what it takes. If you need me, I know there's a lot of moving parts. If you need me, I am here and I am ready. And that was my thing. If there was somebody that got hurt on the mound, which happened a lot in Colorado Springs because of the elevation, and I was active, they would be walking to the mound and they knew they were going to take him out. They would just start doing sidearm because I was throwing sidearm. They would start this motion like, Dillard, you're coming in this game. They didn't hesitate. And so for me, I would rather be a catcher in the big leagues for 10 years and drop bombs. Like that's what I wanted to do. But I was useful in this way. I was useful where I got to be around guys in the bullpen and help influence them. And in a pinch, I was your guy, and they didn't hesitate to go to me. So anyway, like I said, I wanted a role that was really big and profound, but the role that I ended up getting was great.
It's kind of interesting because it was actually probably a really important, obviously, and profound role in itself, with just being that guy to always be available, just because, like you said, some guys not always feeling that way, or, like, oh, I got to go through my certain routine if I'm starting. And so it's obviously a credit to you and just shows why you stuck around so long.
Well, I just think it's always be ready. I always told players all the time, like, your only job, especially pitchers, your only job is to be ready to pitch. Like you show up every day, you should think that you're the first person to throw a baseball off the bump during a game. Like, and if everything goes through that filter, you're going to be fine. I have instance after instance. We were in Albuquerque one time and we were playing cards, and this was like 2008. And we're playing cards, and coach walks in and he's asking everybody, hey, how's your arm feel? How's your arm feel? He gets to me, doesn't even ask me. I'm like, dude, I can pitch. He's like, Dilly, you pitched 2 innings yesterday. You pitched an inning the day before that. He's like, you had a day off before that and 2 innings. He's like, I was throwing more innings than the starters were in a week. And he's like, you are not going to pitch. He's like, don't even take your glove to the bullpen. And I was like, sweet. This is great, because Albuquerque at that time, the Isotopes, they had the best snacks out of anybody in the league. And I'm going to bring this whole giant bag of snacks down to the bullpen and left center. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, coach left. He walked out. And we had a guy, Erasmo Ramirez, a little lefty. Probably not the Erasmo that you're thinking of. This is the one before that one. And anyway, bullpen guy, we called him the Godfather because he had been, he was kind of an older guy on the team. And he kind of grabs me. We weren't on the same team playing cards, but he grabs me and goes, hey, whatever you do, he's like, you prepare like you're going to be the first one out of that bullpen. He's like, take your glove, prepare, have your spikes on. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, because you don't know. And I was like, he just said. He goes, you just don't know. I was like, all right. So I got ready like I should have. I go out there. I got this whole bag of snacks. And what you don't know, if you don't know about Albuquerque, is that it's a tough place to pitch. And so our starter faced 9 hitters, and I don't think got an out. And so they called down and they were like, Dillard's in the game. They didn't say Dillard, get ready. They were like, Dillard's in the game. So I'm like, what in the world? I'm like 7 red vines deep, man. I'm like, all right, well, here we go. So I got ready and got out there, and I got out of it. I think through a couple innings. And you know what I didn't get? I didn't get an apology from anybody. Like, I didn't have the pitching coach come over and go, hey, man, sorry, I told you weren't pitching. And then you pitched. And at that time, I thought, I don't know if I deserve one or not. But here's the thing. You never deserve one. Your job is to pitch if you're a pitcher. That's it. Doesn't matter when or where. If you're active, you have a chance to pitch, and you should be ready. So that always stuck with me, and I'd always tell guys, you have to be ready. And so I think it's the same when Vinny's talking about coming off the bench to hit. Like, you just have to be ready. You have to figure it out. It's not a, okay, well, I haven't played in a week, so if I don't do well, I have that safety net. And that's where your mind goes sometimes. You're like, well, okay, well, if I'm not ready, then it's not a big deal because all the odds are stacked against me. That's the wrong approach. The right approach is, I'm going to figure this out. You go out there on the mound or you go in the box and you feel like garbage and you feel overmatched. You go, I'm just going to figure this out. And I've had to do that, and I'm sure he's had to as well. That's part of the game. And the ones that kind of fall by the wayside, teammates that we've had that just didn't play very long, some of those guys, I'd have to admit, probably err on the side of, well, if I don't figure this out, then I have a safety net of I haven't been playing, So I didn't want to have those kind of excuses. I'm like, whatever, I'll jump through this wall. I don't care. And I did. I crashed and burned a lot, but I always wanted the baseball.
Did you have any superstitions going into games? I know some guys do, some guys don't really, but did you have anything that you did kind of constantly before games?
Not really. I put my uniform on the exact same way. And that was mainly just because I didn't forget anything, like my belt or something. No, it's all about getting prepared. And some people will call a superstition. There's some weird superstitions out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some guys that are like, I'm only going to eat this, or I'm only going to wear this, or I'm not going to wash this. And it can get weird, but for me, it was all about preparation. You think about the pyramid, right? You wake up and the bottom of the pyramid, it's really big. Your focus is on a lot of different things, but there's this focus towards the top of the pyramid that eventually this is when the first pitch happens and you have to be ready. So for me, it wasn't really a superstition. It was, how can I get best prepared? Like if it's noon and we have a game at 7, I have 7 hours to get ready to that point of the first pitch. And so everything kind of is influenced by that to get to that point. So, if everybody's like, hey man, we're going to go hit up Taco Bell at 3:30 with a game at 7, I'm thinking, I love Taco Bell. Thanks for asking, but hard pass. I'm not doing that. Like, that's not preparing right. So anyway, I'm a real big preparation guy. And I think that's what baseball gives you, is those kind of skills. So a lot of times it could get classified as a superstition, but I think it's mostly guys just being prepared.
Wow. Yeah. And they have to follow the same thing every day. I mean, if you don't get a Frito burrito before the game one time, you can't get it the next.
Well, they got rid of those. A couple years ago. I was so mad. I'm still upset about that.
Tim, it's a touchy subject. We were in college at the time, and I can tell you this: Frito burritos, I think they were like $1.
$1 at the time, and it was like a pound. It was like, man, where are we now in society?
We're going the wrong direction right now after this. I also I felt like I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the pivotal time when you kind of had this kind of facial hair, and then you transformed yourself into that.
Sure.
So after like the first 12 years of your career, you finally decided to grow it out. Why was that, and why didn't you grow it out beforehand?
Yeah. Well, my dad always said, in high school, college, even in pro ball, scouts, when they're recruiting guys, they want people to look young. So if you're a guy in high school right now and you have a full beard, just know that a scout can look at you and be like, that guy's full grown. Like, he's not going to get any bigger. Like, the ceiling. This is him. This is the ceiling. That's as high as he's going to go. And I always wanted to look young, because my dad was like, the younger you look, scouts are going to look at you and be like, man, this guy, this potential's through the roof. You don't know when he's going to grow or stop growing. So I'd always shave. I shaved before every game, and did that for 12 seasons. And then it was kind of a big deal. I went to winter ball and I grew out a mustache. I was in Venezuela, grew out a mustache, and they nicknamed me Bigote. So that was cool. I was in Maracaibo with the Aguilas, the Eagles, and Zulia. And anyway, I ended up throwing like the 8th inning and became the 8th inning guy. Did really well. Even got a save there, which is a really big deal, or was at the time, 2014. But I didn't have a job. I didn't have a job in pro ball, but that was my last gung-ho of like, if this doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I went full throttle at it and ended up getting signed by the Brewers. Was that 13? 14. I think it was 14. Ended up getting signed by the Brewers for the 15 season. And I actually had a buddy of mine. We were actually in the hallway here in my house, and I just wanted to reinvent myself. I'm like, man, I came out of Venezuela just a changed person. I don't know if I ever felt like a robot on the mound, but you can't there. It's so much passion. It's so much riding on every pitch. And I just was rejuvenated. And so I thought, I have an opportunity here. I need to reinvent myself. And we just came to the idea of like, dude, just grow a massive beard. You've been clean shaven your entire career. Like, just grow up. Just do it. I was like, all right. So that's when it happened. Just started growing a beard. out of nowhere. Cause I figure I'm 30 years old. And everybody, all the scouts have a smartphone. It's like, who is this guy? Everybody knows. I know most of the umpires by name. It's like, all right, dude, like you're not fooling anybody acting like you're young. So I just embraced it. And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how many years, but the beard still goes. I know a lot of broadcasters don't have beards, but I figured my chin is like right below my lip. So if I shave this thing, my hair just ain't going to look right.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. You're right. Not a lot of broadcasters do have beard, but I think you already have the look locked down, so there's no reason to switch up now.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And then I'd also want to say, so we know your dad was a player and a coach, and his name is widely known. If you know the game of baseball, which obviously you do. What was it like growing up with him, and like what kind of influence did he have on you like early on your playing career?
Sure. Yeah. He was done playing by the time I was born. He finished up. He was actually in '82. He was with the White Sox and was in AAA all year. Actually went home. I think he was living in Chicago. Maybe not. Maybe he was in Mississippi. I don't know. So he goes home, but then got a call like 2 weeks later saying, "Hey, we need you to go to the big leagues." So he had to actually, after not doing anything for a couple of weeks, goes to the big leagues. And at the end of the year, he was a utility infielder, but at the end of the year, they asked him, they said, "Hey, we want you to retire and coach our Gulf Coast League in Florida." So he's like, all right. So picks up the family, moves us to Sarasota and started coaching there. And I was born in Sarasota. We lived in Bradenton for like 11 or 12 years. But my dad, even though he had so many ties to baseball, he didn't care what we did. He just wanted us to go outside and play games. And my mom hated our house growing up, but the reason that she wanted like this other nice house, but my dad got this really tiny house. I got two older brothers, and we grew out of this thing really quick. A really tiny house, but the backyard in Florida that we had was completely flat and it was grass. And so when my mom's looking at this house, like, what are we doing? How are we going to raise 3 kids in this little place? My dad's thinking, look at the backyard and the potential. And so we lived down a dead end street, and all the kids would come to our house and we would play sports. We had a basketball goal set up. We'd play basketball. We'd play football. My dad ended up building a little league size field in the backyard, had a backstop. Later on, we had a batting cage. Like people came to our house because we had all the equipment. Like our garage looked like Play It Again Sports. And my dad knew that. My dad wanted people to come here. This is a safe place to come and just hang out and, make friends. We would do baseball camps in our backyard. So I don't know if I really enjoyed baseball that much growing up. Like I didn't ever see that. I just was around it. And my brothers loved it. They were like, "Hey, we're going to be shortstops today. Go play first." So I'd go learn how to catch and pick balls at first base. And then my brother was like, "I want to pitch. Go catch." So I'd learn how to catch. But my dad didn't care what we did. He just wanted us to be outside with friends, playing sports, team sports. But naturally gravitated towards baseball, and he just even now like continues to just pump in positivity when it comes to baseball. Like, hey, perspective, right? We're all looking for perspective. Every player out there needs perspective at a time. And so I had a very good lifeline with my mom and dad because they had lived that life. I mean, even my wife had to be a player's wife. What better than her mother-in-law who was a player's wife and a coach's wife for so long. So I don't know. I grew up around the game. We would go to Kissimmee all the time when I was growing up because that's where the Astros were. My dad ended up coaching for the Astros. And so I'd get autographs of like Biggio and Bagwell and Caminiti and Inclaviglia and meet all these coaches and stuff. And some of them I would know later. I don't know. I was just around it all the time, got behind the scenes, met Yogi Berra once, met Jim Rice, Doug Drabeck, like all these guys that just in my era were like, oh my gosh, these are the best of the best. And anyway, I just continued playing baseball and kept getting another jersey, and all the way to the point where I signed with the Brewers. I'm going to get on a plane, and my dad, knowing my dad, this makes total sense, but at the time it made 0 sense. But I'm finally in pro ball. I sign, and like 5 days later, I'm flying to Arizona, and we're at the airport, and he's gonna, I'm as far as he can go, and so he looks at me and he's like, "I got to tell you something," and I think it's something like, "I'm proud of you. I love you," maybe, something like that. And he said, he looks at me now and goes, "Stay out of the training room and be nice to the clubbies." And it's like he shoves me on the plane. Like, what? What does that even mean? and I've actually dug really deep on these words. He probably meant exactly what he meant. But in baseball, you don't want to be in the training room because you got a broken fingernail, or you're a little sore. You want to be a gamer. You want to be a guy that shows up ready to play every day. You don't want to be in the training room. And I was in the training room a lot, not because of injuries, but because I just was friends with the trainers.
Yeah.
And they text me all the time, guys all across the league. And I never missed a game due to injury in my 18-year professional career. And that was because I had to learn how to take care of myself, because my dad was like, stay out of the training room. And then being nice to the clubbies it's really easy. Listen, guys will, yell at the clubbies, hey, pick up this stuff, man, wash my uniform, blah, blah, blah. And, it can be a very weird environment when you're telling people, hey, because they have this position in the clubhouse. But what my dad was saying is they're part of the team too. It's a big operation just to put on a game. And your clubby is the guy. He knows everything. He's your trusted friend in the clubhouse. They do so much, whether it's food or, washing your spikes. He's like, and they deserve the same respect as anybody in that clubhouse. And it goes even further than that. You start going trainers, strength trainers, you got your coaches, you got people that work at the stadium, you got ticket takers. You got the broadcasters, the PA announcer, maybe the official scorer. I'm not really sure. But like, it takes a small village to put on just a minor league game. Yeah. And then now I'm in the broadcast world where it's like, it's the major league level. And I get to meet everybody that has a job that helps this game happen. Whether it's the guys that pour beers or it's, the people that are the camera people. And I think it's a life lesson of like, it doesn't matter what that person's job is, or it doesn't matter the person at all. It's whoever you meet, they deserve respect just like you, because you're no different from them. And I don't know, that was the advice my dad gave me. I didn't know what it meant at the time, because I was kind of like, okay, I knew what a clubby was. I was a part-time clubby in the minor leagues growing up. But I didn't know what he meant. And I think I don't know, that's his advice. I told him one time, I was like tearing up. I'm like, Dad, do you remember the advice you gave me? And he's like, what are you talking about? But either way, yeah, stay out of the training room and be nice to the clubby.
It's cool you say that. I actually got the chance to be a clubhouse guy, kind of bat boy, for only one season because of COVID. Otherwise it would have been two. But it was a really good time. And it was just something like, you appreciate when the guys treat you well. I was lucky enough to, be around the team. I think it would have been 2021. Didn't have, like really any bad experiences. But really made you feel, like you're part of the team, day-to-day operation stuff, celebrating, making the playoffs. Like, so it was a very cool experience. But it's cool to hear that your dad said that, especially as somebody who obviously was around, the majors and had already been through that. So,
yeah, there's only a few guys left. I think my dad coached. He ended up coaching with the Cardinals. So he had Tommy Pham. I think he had Lance Lynn for a little bit. But I would meet all sorts of guys across my career that would be like, hey, man, I played for your dad or whatever. If you see him, tell him hello, all that kind of stuff. Like, and it wasn't just players. It was clubhouse guys. It was, farm directors and scouts and, that would fight to make sure they got in front of me to tell me about my dad. Like, it's just how you go about your life. And if you really start looking at it, you're like, well, who am I influencing? Who am I around every day? See every day. Is it a coffee person? Is it a teacher? Who am I seeing every single day that I maybe need to dig into their life a little bit, and kind of build that relationship up. So anyway, to me, it's just a wonderful opportunity to, when I talk to my kids, hey, go make friends today. It's like I'm friends with everyone in my class. Okay, well, great.
Yeah.
Ask them how their Valentine's Day was, things like that.
Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned, Tim, as well, that you had met Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell, and that you had been around Yogi Berra. Brandon and I, we have gotten some autographs and stuff in the past before. Can you tell us about your experience with Yogi Berra?
You probably have heard this one somewhere to bring that one up.
Yep.
Yeah. So he was I think he just coached 1 year with the Astros. It was like 80, I don't know what it was, 89, maybe 90 something. I can't remember. And, I had everyone's autograph. It was to the point where like getting Luis Gonzalez's autograph, I'm like, I have 10 of them. And I'm not, I was a kid, so it's not like I'm taking them and selling them. Like they know I was, coach's kid. So they were like, sure, man. But I got these binders with all these cards, like, Biggio, Bagwell. Yeah, I got them all. And the one I didn't have, I don't even think I had a card of Yogi Berra. Clearly, that's a tough one. But I had a baseball, brand new baseball. I probably stole from the batting cage or something, and had a Sharpie that was extra sharp. And they were going on a bus trip because in Florida, you have these long bus trips. And so I forgot what, it was earlier in the morning and they're going to wherever they're going to play. And everybody's walking by, dude. And I'm just like, got your autograph. Scotty Service, like, got your Scooter Tucker. All these guys walking by. I'm like, save it. I already got yours. And then here comes Yogi Berra. I'm like, here, this is it. And I think everyone knew that I was waiting on Yogi Berra's, right? Like, he comes walking up. Guy's a legend. I was a catcher. I watched Yogi Berra growing up. Like, all his quotes, he's just a fixture in the game. And he walks up, his hands are full. He's got like a briefcase and like maybe a coffee and like has a jacket and stuff. So I'm like, Mr. Berra, will you sign my baseball? And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. He's like, let me put my stuff on the bus and I'll come back. I was like, okay, great. Dude, he gets on the bus, more players get on, and I'm just like, this is crazy, man. He's actually going to sign this ball. But then the door closes to the bus and the bus leaves. I'm like, what? What just happened? Anyway, I don't hold it against him at all. I never did. I know how that stuff works. There's a time frame when you have to get out of there. I get it. But it's just cooler that I talked to him. I wouldn't even have the ball right now if I did get it signed. When I was 16, my house burnt down. So like all those cards I had and autographs and everything, like memorabilia, it's gone anyway. So looking back, I think I just cherished the fact that I saw him and said, hey to him, like, that's just really cool. This guy, for so long was such a legend in the game and still is. So I don't know. That's my moment. I only have like a few balls signed. I got this Ichiro ball signed. I found it the other day.
Well, that's a nice one to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's not authenticated or anything, but during the World Baseball Classic in 2006, I think, Team Japan was using our clubhouse in Milwaukee or at Arizona when I was with Milwaukee. Anyway, they were sharing a clubhouse, so I got an autograph. Nice. I think I have one of the Oak Ridge boys too. That's about it.
So was there any a weird item that you had to sign yourself throughout your whole career? Did anybody ask you to sign anything odd or random, or was it typical stuff?
I know I signed a dude's arm, I think in Omaha. And he got it tattooed. He was a tattooer. I don't know. Tattoo artist. Yeah. Thank you. And anyway, I signed it and he ended up getting it tattooed. Next time we came through town, he was showing it to me. Thought that was kind of weird, but he's a cool dude. Trying to think. I signed a phone case one time. Trying to think what else. A diaper bag maybe once. I don't know. It's just fun. I did the same thing. Whatever you have something, like, sign whatever you can find. But it's not. I think we're in a day and age where we have the camera phones. It's like, to me, a picture is probably better than an autograph. What are you gonna do with an autograph? Mm-hmm. I would rather have a picture. I saw Frank Thomas. We follow each other on Twitter, but I saw him at the winter meetings in Nashville at the Opryland, and all I could think was, I just want to get a picture with him. And it's Frank Thomas. I didn't want to bother him. He looked like he was doing some important stuff, so I left him alone. But back when I was a kid at that time, I would have been like, all I wanted was autograph, because getting a picture with somebody was never on my radar. Now I'm like, I just want a picture of everybody. Saw Tony La Russa. He walked right in between a picture I was taking with a fan. And I was like, oh man, so cool. I was like, did you get a picture of Tony La Russa walking through the photo? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh. So anyway, I love getting pictures with famous people. I always call them by their first and last name too. I feel like they know who they are, but I met Adrian Beltre when I was with the Rangers, and I'm like, hey, Adrian Beltre, I'm Tim. And he's like, I know who you are. And I'm like, you know who I am, Adrian Beltre?
That's cool.
Anyway, I'm awkward. Sorry.
Did he say stop calling me Adrian Beltre, or did he not?
No, he just was grinning the entire time, laughing. Oh, he's incredible.
Tim, I can relate to what you're saying, because at this point in Brandon and I's lives, like, I'm kind of past the autograph phase, and like, pictures are cool, but honestly, like, for me, like, a conversation like this, like you said about with Yogi Berra, I mean, it's priceless. That's priceless.
Well, and I think nowadays I'm more maybe keen on that than I was as a kid, because it was just about getting the autograph, right? Mm-hmm. It's just about having that tangible thing. And Absolutely. Now I got to, this sounds bad, but I see now that I'm in the broadcasting world, even though I don't really know what I'm doing, is I get to go out all these places and I see their broadcasters. So like, it's always weird. You're trying to get ready for a game and, you go to the restroom and suddenly you look over and like Barry Larkin's in there and you're like, hey, Barry Larkin. And he's like washing his hands and you're like, all right. But you start striking up these conversations. Saw Nomar Garcia-Parra in the restroom and at American Family Field. Talked to him. I didn't even think about telling him I was teammates with his brother for a year or so. But that's what it is. You get to see all these guys that played, and you just talk to them. I got to talk to Ron Darling. He was eating ribs or eating like chicken wings, the bone with the bones in.
Yeah.
And so like I felt really bad. Like we're at Citi Field and he's trying to eat, but he was very like, no, I wanted to meet you. And, so I'm talking to him and he's just giving advice. Tim Kirchin's amazing. He still keeps in touch with me. And I'd never dreamt that I would even have a Tim Kirchin's phone number, but just having conversations with these people, hearing about where they came from, what they feel like is important to them in baseball and stuff that they've gone through is priceless, man. I mean, it's just, and I think I'm more keen on that of who I'm meeting and what we're talking about than getting an autograph or even maybe a picture at this point. Is just grabbing someone's attention, having a conversation. It's priceless.
Yeah. So did you get Tim Dillard's contact info in 08 when you did the impression?
Kirchin?
Yeah. Or
Kirchin?
was it? Yeah.
Yeah. In 2011. I used to do his impersonation all the time because I don't even know if they brought me to big league camps to pitch. It was more to just do skits. I go to spring training is what we did. I do Harry Carey, like, hi everybody, I'm here with Troy LaHawkins. Hey man, what's going on? Or something. I'd be making a joke about whatever. But Tim Kirchin, yeah, Tim Kirchin, ESPN. And that's just one of the skits that we would do. And this is what baseball players do. You just, you goof off, have fun. Did that all of 2011. And then we're in the playoffs. And I'm sitting at my locker and I see Tim Kirchin walk in. And I'd never seen him, I don't think, in person. Or if I have, it was from far away. So he walks in. I'm like, holy crap, it's Tim Kirchin. But I was like, I'm not going to bother him. He starts looking around at the locker plates like really slow. And then he gets to my locker. He looks up and then he looks down at me. And I'm like, what's happening? And he walks over to me and I'm sitting there. And we're about the same height, me sitting in the chair and him standing. And he goes, hi, I'm Tim Kirchin. And I heard that you do a pretty good impersonation of me. And I was like, I didn't know what to do because I'm like, I don't know this guy. I never met him. And so I didn't want to offend him, but I was like, sorry, I don't know where you heard that, but that's not true. I'm so sorry. I must have been misinformed. Thank you. He starts to walk away. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Anyway, he starts laughing and we talked. And it turns out Casey McGee, third baseman, ratted me out because he had talked to him somewhere. But Tim Kirchin was phenomenal. And to this day, I have not met someone that loves their job more than this man. I mean, he just oozes of just joy and encouragement. We talked there for a good bit in the clubhouse. Didn't see him again until the next season during they were doing the road trip thing. And I did a skit where I made fun of him on air. And he's like, you started all this. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah. And people were making fun of him in Florida. They're like, but you were the first one to do an impersonation. So I got credit for it. I'm like, thanks, man. But then I made the team in 2012 and we were in Chicago playing the Cubs and we were eating at Mike Ditka's restaurant, I think. Bullpen was there. Clearly, I'm not paying. And anyway, a server comes over and he's like, is there a Jim Billard at this table? And everybody's laughing. And they're like, yeah, Jim's right here. It's like, thanks. He goes, yeah, there's a gentleman at the bar in the bar area that was asking if you were here. And Randy Wolf was there. Randy Wolf goes, well, who is it? And he goes, it's a Mr. Tim Kirchin. And we're all like, oh, Tim Kirky gems. Anyway, I saw him at Wrigley the next day and we talked for like 30 minutes on the field. And when I got into broadcasting. He got my phone number, and he called me once a week for the entire season. And we'd talk for like 10 or 15 minutes. And so he still texts me, every holiday and stuff. He's just a phenomenal human. And it all became because I just made fun of him. let that be a lesson. You don't have to be the best, kids. You just have to make fun of everybody. But anyway.
That is an incredible backstory of that. Wow.
Yeah, sorry, it's really long. That's my fault.
But I love the quick Randy Wolf plug in there too. Randy Wolf
yeah, because I remember I love Randy Wolf. And he just his face was like stuck from laughing. Like he could not believe. He's like, Tim Kurtz is here. Anyway. It was
awesome.
While we mentioned Randy Wolf, I want to mention another former player,
Sure.
Ben Zobrist.
Yeah.
How did you and Ben first meet, and what is your relationship like?
Actually our wives met, I think, before we even met, and we met at church here in Nashville, and this was 2007, I think, or 2007, when we decided we were going to live in Nashville. And you're in a small area of town, and you hear someone's a player's wife, like that gets around real quick. So our wives met, best friends, still good friends. So I kind of came back from the season, and him too, where, hey, guess what? Now we're friends. And yeah, we did life together for so long. Our oldest boys were born a day apart, and
Wow.
Our kids are good friends, and did birthday parties together and all sorts of stuff. Train a little bit in the off season. We used to, but yeah, that was it. And I don't know. We kind of grown apart over the last several years. I haven't really seen him that much. I saw him at the winter meetings in December. But yeah, that's kind of the nature of the beast. You show up to a place, and you start learning about who's in that same field, and that's who you gravitate towards. So yeah, he was there at Game 7 in 2016. I was there when he got the big hit for the Cubs that won him the World Series. So pretty big moment, and yeah, good dude.
Yeah, great dude. I mean, so great of a dude that you guys had a podcast together.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that thing was really cool, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
We were garnering some big attention, especially because we would get guests that are good players and stuff, and we had a good round table thing going on. We had a college coach and a strength trainer, and then Ben on the position side and me on the pitching side, and we were all on the same level of like trying to give out advice and stuff. But once things started picking up, everybody kind of went their own way. People retiring, people moving jobs, and we kind of, got disassociated there. But it was a good podcast for a little bit. The show and go, it was good.
Absolutely, I watched a couple clips. I enjoyed it personally.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask a little bit towards the end of your career. I know it was one of the teams we mentioned before, the Milkmen. I actually live in Muskego, so pretty close to Franklin Field, nice area.
Sure.
What was it like playing there? I know you've said that was one of your favorite times playing, or just in general independent league ball. So could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I played a good bit in independent ball, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a couple times. I don't know if winter ball, or yeah, maybe that is Venezuela, Mexico. I feel like I'm missing one or two, but anyway, yeah. COVID hits, right? Minor leagues canceled, and somehow something comes across my Twitter feed of they're playing baseball in Milwaukee, like a independent team. I'm going, no way this is true. And they're doing it in front of fans. I was like, no one's playing in front of fans in the entire world, not even Major League Baseball. So I reach out, I email, I go to their website, I email and said, hey, my name's Tim Dillard. If you need a pitcher, I'd love to do that. This was like early July. And anyway, I didn't hear anything back. And then suddenly somebody reached out over Twitter and was like, hey man, would you want to come pitch for the Milkmen? I'm like, did y'all get my email? Finally, it's like, but it was a month later. So I ended up driving to Milwaukee, which my wife was like, what are you doing? What are we doing? Like, what is going on right here? And I said, I don't know. One thing I've learned in my life, and if take anything away from any of this interview stuff, but I just feel like sometimes you have to do, like, you just want to, well, what do I do? I'm going to wait. I'm going to be patient. You hear that kind of stuff. I don't know what to do. So sometimes you have to do stuff. And I just felt led that I need to do this. I don't know why, but I'm like, I'm going to do this. And jumped in the car, the old 2-wheel drive sleigh out there, and drove to Milwaukee and was part of that team for a month and played in front of fans and met a bunch of people. And when you're not pitching, when I wasn't pitching, I was bat boy. So I got to be like the best bat boy ever. I'm like, you try to out bat boy me, good luck. Couldn't do it. And anyway, we ended up winning a championship. I don't know if I helped or not. The team was fantastic. They were going to win no matter what. I just happened to come along for the ride. Met a lot of good people there, guys I still keep in touch with, to the point where I've been back. I got my ring. It's on the shelf over here, for winning the championship. And I've been back to be bat boy a few times. I love the people there, and they put on such a great show, and they got such a good spot too. A lot of times after games, I would just park in the parking lot behind the fence there and watch the Jumbotron. They just play movies on there. I think that's brilliant. And I don't know. It was fantastic. And what led to what I do now, so I get a call or a text maybe from Brewers broadcast department. And this was before any of the broadcasting stuff was out there at all. I didn't know anything about it. And they text me and said, hey, from your Twitter account, it looks like you're in Milwaukee. And I was like, yeah, dude, what are you stalking me? No, I'm kidding. They're like, hey, Bill Schroeder needs a couple days off. Would you mind coming in and doing a series? Brewers playing the Reds. And I was like, oh, wow, absolutely. I was like, let me ask my coach. Ask the manager. So I asked the manager, I was supposed to be bat boy that day. So he was like, well, as long as you get someone to cover your bat boy duties, because you're not pitching. He's like, as long as you get someone to cover your bat boy duties, then you can go broadcast that Major League Baseball game. I said, okay. So I got someone to do it. A buddy of mine covered me on the bat boy, and drove 20 minutes or whatever, got to the stadium, had to go through all the procedures that were in place at that time. And then I get into the booth, and I'm with Matt LePay, which Matt LePay is awesome. Talking with him, hanging out. And then that was when the shooting happened and they actually canceled the game. The Reds and Brewers, I saw where like Moustakas and Yelich and everybody was on the field. Votto, they were all talking on the field about what they were going to do. They ended up canceling that game. They played the next day. So it was the first ever doubleheader at Miller Park. And anyway, I was there for it, was on the call, and it was an absolute riot. Like, we had so much fun. It was like sitting in the bullpen and you're just calling a game like I would do if I was in the bullpen. And I'm sure it was very raw. I wasn't very textured at all. And I don't think I'm that way anyway, even now, not polished even a little bit. And it went great. And anyway, went back to the Milkmen, won the championship, drove home. And it was, a few months later, right. Actually, during spring training, it was like March when they called, and they were about to be March, April or February. And they said, yeah, we want you to broadcast. So looking back on it, was it above and beyond chance? Like, was it sometimes when you do stuff, it leads to another thread, and you don't know which thread's going to be more important going forward. So you could trace everything back to, hey, I decided to send an email or jump in the car and drive to Milwaukee to play for the Milkmen. And that led to the broadcasting. And I don't know, you can go back. It's easier when you're older and you look back at this led to this and this led to this. And it's surprising at times, because you're like, wow, I didn't think anything about that at the time, and it ended up becoming a big thing. So anyway, yeah, that's my advice. Just sometimes you just got to do something.
Yeah.
And would you say, like, as far as broadcasting as well, like, was there any like advice that you had, received before you got in the booth, or like any advice that you feel was really good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty observant anyway. And so just watching guys on TV, I always see what they do. Like, they're always holding a pen, right? They got a pen. They're sitting at the desk. You see my hand, I got a pen. So sometimes I didn't have a pen. I still do. I'll forget a pen, and I just use like a straw from the concession stand. Just, have a straw. Because for whatever reason, you got to have something in your hand. But I don't know. I wanted to be interesting, because baseball is fun, especially a pre and post game show. Like, just have as much fun as you can. Like, say whatever you want in pregame show. When you're totally wrong, you can be like, hey, sorry, on the postgame show. Like, who cares? And that's kind of how it rolls. In the booth, just, you don't have to try to predict everything like Tony Romo. I think I tried a few times, and they were like, someone's in my ear going, can you not do that, please? But I think the biggest piece of advice I actually got from Dale Schwame in 2008. he actually took over. We were in Chicago, and that's when Ned Yost, the third, got fired, and kind of had a shake up of what we're going to do to try to make playoffs. And Dale Schwame comes in. The first thing he said was, "I will never forget how hard the game of baseball is." He's like, "Everything I do is going to be based in that." And so I just remember thinking, how many broadcasters do you hear that are like, "What is this guy thinking?" Or "I can't believe this is going on."
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make excuses for players, but everything's going to go through that thought process of baseball is a hard game. It is so difficult. It's mentally draining, physically, spiritually, emotionally. It is such a hard thing to do. Yeah, the big leaguers get compensated a ton for it, but it's a hard thing to be a good baseball player. And so when I'm broadcasting a game, I'm always putting everything through that of going, you know what? Maybe he didn't get to that ball because the night before he dove 7 times keeping a ball in the infield. Like, heaven forbid the next day he doesn't feel 100%, and maybe that ball is just out of his reach.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make excuses, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Or, hey, how come this manager's not playing this guy in right field? Why is he not playing today? Like, could be something we don't know about. They don't tell us everything, and they don't have to. They shouldn't. And so we speculate, but not in a negative way. And so if you pay a close enough attention to with baseball, which, like I said, my one gift is that I pay attention too much, you will see what happens early in a ball game, and stuff pays dividends later on in the ball game. So if you see, a pinch runner, or if you see somebody pulled back for a pinch hitter, or if you see a guy playing deep into a hole, like, there's all these little nuances going on. And if you're looking for it, you can reference it back later. So that was one of the things I wanted to do, was just be observant and know that the game is just super hard.
Yeah.
That's awesome to keep in mind, for sure. Because, a lot of guys that didn't play the game will criticize guys on errors or stuff like that. But it's good that you keep that perspective, I think.
Well, sometimes there's just a mental error. Like, you throw it to the wrong base. It's like, But there's times when you see, like, you'll see, okay, right now they need a double play or they need to walk a guy. And so if I'm the pitcher on the mound, I'm thinking, you either swing at my pitch for a double play or I'm going to walk you. And then suddenly it's a 3-2 count, and the batter swings out a ball out of the zone, hits off the end of the bat, right back at the pitcher. The pitcher catches it and goes straight to second base for a double play. I remember we were in San Diego, and I was saying that about Hobie Milner. And I was like, he needs a double play or he needs to walk this guy. And sure enough, it was like dinker right back to him. And Hobie bounces off the mound as a lefty, too. It makes an incredible play to second, and they get him at first, too. And it's like a fist pump moment. I don't know if he did. I'm sure I did. I'm like, that was awesome. But there was so many things that happened later on in that ball game that led to that moment where he was paying attention. And the reason he threw that pitch is because of what the batter did in previous at-bats. And so if you're going to be a guy that gets the ball on the ground a lot, you have to be able to field your position. So that's a credit to him in spring training when he goes through his PFPs of taking them seriously and learning how to field his position, which sometimes can get overlooked. So there's a lot of things that go on in that one little moment. Was the moment great? Yes. Did it happen by chance? No. There's a lot of depth to it. That's what I love to see, and that's what I love praising the players for.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that is really cool. Tim, you've been very gracious with your time. We'll have a couple quick hitters, and then and we'll let you go. But there was one thing that I was just personally wondering, because like, you're in Wisconsin, correct?
Not right now. I'm in Nashville.
Okay.
But I'm in Wisconsin for half the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just kind of curious. Charlie Barons has done some really good content, Wisconsin based, and I think some of your content would be applicable with him. I feel like you guys both produce good stuff. Is there a reason why you guys haven't worked together, or can we see something out of you guys?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I remember, I don't know when he got real big, but a lot of people were asking me if I knew him. I'd never met him. I think I was at a game he threw out a first pitch, and I didn't know where he went after that. Probably to a skybox beyond the stars. I only have access to the press box. Yeah, I haven't met him, but I've seen his stuff. I love the stuff he does with Yelich, by the way. Like, I think whoever they're collaborating, they should keep that up because they have a good little mix together. But yeah, I mean, he's hitting the nail on the head with it. The one he did where he toured a facility, a brewery or something like that, I remember really stuck out because he's like, do I do this? And the person's like, no, don't do that. But he deadpans it, and I love that. But yeah, I'd love to meet him. I love his stuff.
Hey, who knows? Maybe it's a thread you can pull on down the road and talk to the producer and see if you can get him on the post-game show.
I know. I probably could tweet at him or message him on Instagram. You know what? So here's a very strange story. This is a power of social media, by the way, and the fact that I do have a check mark on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle-in-law texted me the other day. He lives in Oxford, Mississippi, and a friend of his wanted to know where is it Kirk Herbstreit?
Mm-hmm.
He does college football. He does. Yeah. I think he does NFL too, but like game day, college game day. And so anyway, he was asking about where he got his dogs, because apparently his dog is like a famous dog now, because like goes to the games and gets a credential. It's like a whole thing. So this is so weird. My uncle-in-law, his friend, wanted to know where he gets his dogs, like a breeder or something like that. So I was like, okay. He's like, I know you're in the broadcasting world. Do you by chance, could you find out about him? And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I'll just look at his social media, go on Instagram, and I see that he has all these dogs. So I just messaged him, hey man, my name's Tim. Like, I'm not trying to bother you. I was like, but kind of curious on where you get your dogs. I was like, no worries. Hit me back if you want. Hits me back like an hour later. Kirk Herbstreit, who has like 1 million followers or something. Yeah. He's like, he tells me where to go. And like, he's like, do you want the phone number? So I text my uncle-in-law and he's like, yeah, get the phone number. So get the phone number. Where? I'm like, he's like, I can't believe. He goes, how'd you get that? And I'm like, I just messaged him. So maybe I just need to start messaging famous people and they'll just hit me back. But yeah, I think that's what social media started out to be a little bit, was about meeting people that normally you wouldn't be able to meet. And so that's kind of the approach that I take. So yeah, if I was going to meet up with Charlie, I think that would be in social media world first. I need to get on that.
Absolutely.
Well, another guy, obviously we just chatted with him and kind of, helps get us set up with you, is Vinny. Is it true that you guys had quite a few of you packed in a house in Beloit? And do you have any other stories about that?
I got a lot of Vinny stories. Yeah, we came up together, did everything. We lived together. He slept on my floor. I got an apartment, me, Dana Eveland, a guy named Dan Gribish. We all got an apartment. And this is what happens too. By the end of the year, everybody's like got kicked out of their apartment, or, maybe their place fell through or whatever. So yeah, we ended up having, like, at one point, the most we had maybe was 7. But Vinny slept behind the couch on an egg crate for half the year. Gilder Rodriguez, one of our infielders, he got kind of kicked out of his house. So we brought him in. He made arepas every morning. That was really cool. And we'd play Xbox and Halo and stuff. I mean, that's just what you did. It's like but we'd all hitch rides and we all go to the field every day and try to go win a ball game and then come back. And, but yeah, Vinny, let's see what else. What's a good Vinny story? Oh, so did you know he's played every position in the game?
We did. We actually brought it up, which is pretty crazy.
A couple times.
To play all 9 positions.
Which is strange, and it's actually really hard to do because you have to be very methodical in how you put that together as a manager. So kudos to Don Money for pulling that off. But I remember one time Vinny was catching and I was pitching, and I am just like, I have like 4 people on base. It is like a terrible situation. I'm like, God. And he comes out to the mound and he is freaking out. He's like, what are we going to do, man? What are we going to do? Golly. It's like they know what's coming, man. They're just crushing you. And like, God, what are we going to – I don't even know what to throw, man. I don't even know what – and I'm like – the pitcher coach is walking out, Rich Savor. And I look at Vinny. I'm like, Vinny, there's only one person in the world that I want to be calm, and it's my catcher. And he was like, how are you going to be calm in this situation? But I remember thinking, I was like, that just stressed me out a little bit, man. And we were laughing about it later, but I was just like, I thought it was hilarious. Because me as being a catcher, and most of the catchers I had at the time, they come out with their mask and they take it off and they're like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Here's our plan. It may be a terrible plan, but you come out and you're calm and you're talking. Vinny was freaking out. And to that day, man, you want your catcher to be calm. If you're a third baseman, you come over, you just don't say anything. But catcher, you need that confidence from your catcher. But yeah, Vinny. We were telling a story. We saw each other in fantasy camp the other day. Did he tell you the story about the lady in the airport?
No.
No.
We're in Dallas Fort Worth, I think, airport. It's early. There's nobody there. And I don't know if I'm at McDonald's or whatever. And then right across the hallway on the other side in the terminal is a Dunkin'. So Vinny, I think, is at Dunkin'. And he's sitting there, he's getting ready to order, and I'm sitting on the other side. And we used to do this thing. It comes from Mitch Stetter, where if you see somebody in a hurry running, if it's a guy running down a, whatever, you just go, sir, like really loud, and they'll stop and look. So there's this lady running in like high heels and like a business suit, carrying had like a drink in her hand and like a rolly bag. So she's like, and you can hear the heels coming. It's like pop, 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 down the hall. So kind of look around, and I knew somebody on the team. There was other teammates around. I knew somebody was about to say something to this lady. I wasn't going to do it. I was like, it's too early for me. And I hear Vinny from across at the Dunkin'. He was just like, excuse me, ma'am, you dropped something, like really loud. Like, ma'am, you dropped something. And you hear the heels like start stopping really fast, like boom. And she's like, she turns around, like whips around. She goes, what? Did I really? And I mean, Vinny just starts looking up at the menu, like, oh, like pretending he didn't do it. Then she's like looking at the other side of the hallway. She's like, who said that? I'm like, and I'm looking, I'm like, what am I going to order? And she's like, I can't believe that's so wrong. Why would you do? I mean, like yelling. And then she just runs off. And I look over and Vinny's like looking at me all wide-eyed. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. But I bet he regrets that.
Hey, those are the kind of fun little things you got to do though, to add a little spice in your life, type thing.
If you're in the bullpen,
that's awesome.
You're in the bullpen, you'll see you're out there by the fans will be running by, and you'd be like, sir, and then people turn around and they look, and you just act like you're watching the game. Like they have no idea. Take that one with you. You should do that. You see somebody do it, sir, and then act like anyway.
I do like to honk at people when I'm driving. I don't know if
don't do that. Stay away from the honk. Nobody likes
honk. You don't like honking?
No, never. I've never honked. I don't honk at anybody. My wife will somebody pull out in front of me. She's trying to reach over, and I'm just like, I'm like Jason Bourne over here, like pa pa pa. Stay away from the horn.
I should say when I see somebody walking on the sidewalk, I'll give a little honk, and then
it's like a light tap.
You just act like you're still driving.
Yeah, you see like a lady jogging. You pull up, roll down the window. Ma'am, is someone chasing you? Don't do that one.
Well, I guess to kind of wrap up with some of the quick hitters, we talked a little bit about Taco Bell before. Is that still a go-to fast food wise for you?
Absolutely. I'm going out to spring training here to do a couple of games like mid-March. And I know the hotel where I'm staying. I've spent several years there of my life. And there's a Taco Bell right down the street. And I promise you I will be there. It's my jam. Yeah, I love it.
And while on that subject, is it true that while playing in Mexico, you had the chance to represent KFC on your jersey? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. On the uniforms there, they put patches on the uniform and the pants.
Oh,
and
wow.
The pants had a KFC. I mean, like a big one, not like a tiny. It was like a big circle patch of KFC. And they also had a DirecTV patch like on the arm. And anyway, I got fired in Mexico. Not because I was doing bad. I was actually doing really well. They just had different the roster moves. You can only have 5 foreigners, things like that. So anyway, I got fired. And I was thinking, well, can I have this KFC patch? And they were like, no, we only get a certain amount of those. They were like, no. But anyway, the patch on my jersey was falling off anyway, the DirecTV patch. And it's actually in this drawer, I think. Give me a second.
Sure.
Maybe I know I still got it. No, anyway, I must have put it somewhere else, but yeah, the DirecTV patch. I wanted the KFC one because it was like a really good, like sewn on, patch. But yeah, that's what you do. That's like you play overseas in any capacity. It is. You're a billboard, which I'm okay with. The Major League Baseball is starting to do that too. And they're doing it a little bit more subtle, which is probably for the best.
Yeah.
But I saw this jersey on a rabbit hole on Reddit. This isn't the jersey, or is this the jersey?
No, it was just a patch.
Oh,
and it was on your pants. What I thought was interesting about it, it's like on the middle of your thigh. So you have gray pants, and you just have this middle of your thigh giant circle KFC patch, and it's just like. I'd never seen that before. That was a first timer for me. So anyway,
that's
wish
awesome.
I'd stolen that one.
Well, we do know you love free stuff.
Oh yeah.
What do you feel like is like the best gift someone has given you, and or the unique one that stands out?
Best gift I ever got.
Yeah,
I
our
don't know.
favorite.
I mean, I've gotten a lot of great gifts. I can't think of one in particular that's better than the other. There's a place next to the field at American Family Field. There's Fourth Base Grill.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of the filming location for the movie Major League. And so I popped in there a couple years ago and I met a bunch of people there. And one of the guys there, one of his things is he buys all the Billy Ripken cards, Fleer. Do you remember the Billy Ripken
Yeah,
card where he's holding
yeah.
the bat?
Into the
I
bat.
won't show this zoomed in, but anyway, he buys these like online. I'll put my finger right there. He buys these online wherever he sees them. And then when he meets people and he like kind of as a gesture of a friendship, he gives them one. So I had popped in this place a couple times over several months or maybe years. And then one day I go in and his name's Andy. And Andy, he's like, here, I want you to have this. This is like a we're friends now type thing. So anyway, it's on my shelf. I thought, man, that's kind of cool. I mean, maybe it's not the best gift I've ever gotten. That's pretty relative to the moment and who the person is. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just looked up and saw it. Thought that was pretty decent.
That is cool.
Oh, I will tell you a good one. This goes back to Taco Bell too.
Perfect.
I was in Round Rock, Texas. That's where I don't know who's their AAA now. I don't know if it's Rangers or Astros, but it was
Round
going
Rock's
back and
correct.
forth a while. It's the one Nolan Ryan owns the team.
Hmm.
And so I played there many a times. I mean, a lot. And so I get to know even the people that work there. And one of our drivers, because we get done with the game and then we have like several like 15 passenger vans. That's how you get back to the hotel, to the Hilton Garden Inn. And anyway, I'm usually on the last one just because I'm the first one in the clubhouse. I'm usually one of the last ones to leave. And anyway, right by the hotel, like down the street about a mile, we're driving and there's never any food there after a certain time. After like 11 a.m., everything closes except for Taco Bell. You can go to the drive-thru. So I'd always mess with our driver and I'd be like, hey man, let's run through Taco Bell. But he's instructed to just go from the field to the hotel. So that was our running joke for several seasons. You know, I go there probably, have 8 games there, go for 2-4 game series. So anyway, I would sit shotgun. They would let me sit up front and I'd always be like, hey man, let's grab that Taco Bell there. He'd laugh and be like, I got to take you back to the hotel. So one day, one of the last times I ever played in Round Rock, Texas, I am getting warmed up for the 10th inning, right? Where they put the ghost man on second. I'm on the mound getting ready. And the driver comes down and said, hey, Tim. I was like, hey, man. He goes, I'm not going to be driving you all tonight. And I know y'all are leaving tomorrow. And I was like, oh, that's cool, man. It's great to see you. Appreciate you. He goes, yeah, well, I got you something. And he pulls out a Taco Bell gift card. And he was like, this is for you, man. Sorry I couldn't take you ever. And I was like, that is so cool. And then Eric Gagne was the bullpen coach. So Eric Gagne, former teammate, now he's my coach. He's like, hey, man, you got to go out there. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like, hey, appreciate it. And I put the Taco Bell card in my pocket, throw one more pitch, and I ran out to the field. I think I actually did good that game. Maybe I ended up getting a win. I don't even know. But I did it with a Taco Bell gift card in my pocket. So that was just, I mean, talk about thoughtful gifts. I mean, that was never on my radar. And all of a sudden that goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Now that's a token of friendship right there.
Yeah. Did I use it? Absolutely. I used it.
Hey, on dollar burritos, I mean, it's going to get you a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. No more beefy Frito burrito though, but they were in stock then. Crush those.
A couple more here, quick hitters.
Sure.
So, what do you think was either the best game that you witnessed or the best game that you played in, or most memorable?
Best game witnessed. I mean, a lot of those in 2008 and 11 were really good. I was never involved in the really good ones. I was always in the bullpen, but seeing the home runs, seeing CC Sabathia just dominate, some really cool moments there. I got a win in Miami against the Marlins. Didn't even know I got the win. Kind of just fell in my lap a little bit. I pitched well. So, I mean, I guess you could say I earned it. But we were supposed to lose that game. I came in like an impossible situation. Got a great double play from Counsell at third. End up getting out of it. And then Bronny hit a home run. And then Axford got a save. And so I ended up getting a win. Didn't even dawn on me. That was really cool. I mean, did it really matter? I mean, maybe, we ended up making the playoffs, and but to me, it was a big deal because my teammates kind of came out of the woodwork and celebrated me for that. Takashi Saito, one of my teammates, got me a glove. It's on my shelf over there. That commemorated. That was my first major league win. Didn't know it was going to be my only major league win, but that was a really cool one. I was there in the bullpen in one year when Randy Johnson ended up getting like a strikeout record at Miller Park. Not really sure what year that was or what the record was. That was kind of a memorable game in that way. I was at the game, then Hunter Pence was traded in the middle of the game. He ran out to right field, and then someone had to come replace him, gave him a hug, and told him he was traded. That was kind of cool. Got to know Hunter Pence later on, so he was telling the story. It was really cool. I'm trying to think what else, man. There's just been some really cool stuff that's happened in baseball. A really cool one, Manny Parra threw a perfect game in Round Rock in like 2007 or 8, maybe. Threw a perfect game, man. Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
And they asked him after the game, the people in the front office asked him, what's something we can do for you to commemorate? And he's like, I want a ball signed by Nolan Ryan. And he got one. I remember thinking, all I have to do is throw a perfect game here, and I'm gonna
I can get that. That's awesome.
I want that too, man. So I don't know. Just there's all sorts of memories. We could go all day. Some that maybe won't mean as much to others, but when you're there and you get to witness some of this stuff, it's pretty cool. I've had people rob home runs for me. And it's just really cool, especially like when your roommate does it. I had a roommate rob a home run for me, and it's just cool. When you're friends and you see guys have moments, maybe it doesn't even affect you. Maybe it's just, maybe a guy hits for the cycle, or maybe he hits a game-winning homer and you get to celebrate them. Like those, sometimes it's not even about you at all. You just get to kind of witness it, and it's special.
Wow. I do have to chime in. It sounds like, the other thing I think Chris was going to mention before, you were only with Round Rock for about 2 weeks, 13 days or so. So it sounds like you had some memorable experiences in that short amount of time.
But I never played for him. So Nashville was AAA for the Rangers. And then the next year 2021, I guess they changed everything. I think I was going to be back in Nashville in 2020 had it happened. But no, this is just being on the road. This is just being a road player. You're in the Pacific Coast League before they changed where the teams go. Man, I spent, so many times in like Omaha, Salt Lake City, Albuquerque, Iowa, of course, Round Rock, Sacramento, Fresno, Memphis, New Orleans. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I forgot some. Colorado Springs. But yeah, you're there like 8 games a year. And I was in AAA for like 12 years. So did I ever live in Round Rock or play for the team? No. But have I been there like 80 times? Like, yeah, I've been there.
In 2021, did you show up for those 13 days?
No. I didn't. 2021, I was going to go to spring training, and that's when the Brewers called.
Gotcha.
But I think they put me on like MILB, where I was like Round Rock. But that's because they kicked the Rangers out of Nashville and put them back in Round Rock, I guess, and then brought the Brewers back to Nashville because MLB stepped in and wanted the AAA teams to be closer to their major league clubs. But no, I never got to play for them. Great organization though, and I know everybody there, or a lot of people.
Yeah,
absolutely. So right now I'm going to give you the floor. Is there anything that you want to plug, whether it's Dim Tillard, anything you're working on, any big projects? I'll give you the floor.
Oh, okay. Just if you want to follow me for some pointless content, just go to Dim Tillard on pretty much anything. Mainly I like Twitter a lot, and my messages are open. So if you ever want to ask me questions or whatever, I'm a pretty accessible guy. I do have a thing called Dim Zoom I really like. So because my messages are open, I've had high school players, college players, even professional players reach out to me and like, hey man, I'm looking for advice or something. And anyway, I turned it into a Zoom call because everybody had to get good with Zoom, right? In 2020, I'd never even heard of it. And suddenly I'm like trying to get better at it. And so these guys would reach out and be like, hey, I just got dropped down sidearm or something like that. Or so anyway, I would just jump on a Zoom with him and talk to him and try to help him in that way. And anyway, I turned it into Dim Zoom. So you can actually go to dimtiller.com and book a Dim Zoom, and then we can spend, however long you want just talking baseball or getting advice. I guess the idea would be, say you're a coach in some capacity, you got a bunch of kids and you can jump on, all right, you can have like 100 people on there, ask questions, just any kind of, because one thing I did get over my career in baseball is just a lot of knowledge, and I do want to share it. I want to inflict it and help people, and it's advice that I give that I wouldn't, I would give nothing that I wouldn't tell my own kids, right? Like, some people have a heart to help, and I always felt like that's what I wanted to do. And so I can't really coach and broadcast. So this is my way of trying to help in that arena. So yeah, Dim Zoom, if you're interested, check it out.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to give back. And Tim, so since you've been on the show now, who's somebody that you'd like to see on our podcast next? And before you answer, whoever you name, it'd be awesome if you could help get him on the show.
I don't know. I don't know who would be good. I don't know. Who would you want to talk to?
Well, I mean, the name that keeps coming to mind to me is Ed Cedar.
Eddie? Okay, I'll reach out.
Brandon, did you have a name?
No, I mean, I was thinking the same, just because of, all the stuff that we've heard, and obviously it's cool being, Milwaukee based. Well, Chris right now being in Arizona, but, trying to connect with as many people as we can.
Okay.
But, obviously just taking the time to talk to Vinny and now Hewitt has been great.
So is that what happened? Vinny named me?
He did. He did, but
now
you were
I'm putting
actually
the
on our
pieces
list
together. Yeah. Yeah, I'll reach out to Eddie.
No, that'd be awesome.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it's just, cool to sit down and be able to talk to guys like you and get insight, into a little more of just other than obviously we talked a lot about the baseball side, but, really the personal side of it too. So.
Yeah, I mean, these guys do life together, and a lot of times they spend more time with their teammates than they do their own families. So how does that work, right? When you have guys from, 10 different countries all in one room, different cultures, different backgrounds, how do you build a team out of that? How do you get along with everybody? Because you can go into an office right now and people get mad at each other about nothing, It's like, well, how does this work in baseball? And what you find is that there's just a lot of people with a lot of grace that just, learn how to build relationships with people that maybe normally wouldn't. Who knows? But it's about getting to know everybody, and it stems from the coaches too. Coaches want to create an environment for that kind of growth. And when you bring up somebody like Eddie he's a team guy. He wants everybody to get along, and he had the tools to do that, and he was very successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie's a legend, and you are too, Tim. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. I think people are really going to enjoy a lot of these captivating stories that you have produced today.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. Sorry if I was long-winded. Some of those questions, though, they're heavy questions. They needed heavy answers.